good morning and happy Monday to you. For those who are watching on LinkedIn, who are new to me because of New Media Summit, my name is LaShonda Brown, and welcome to Bootstrap Biz Advice Live, where I teach service providers how to work less and live more by leveraging tech and YouTube. Now, Q1 has been nuts for me because I have been flying all over creation. I've been in Seattle, in Austin, in Nashville. But one of the things that I am so excited about is at the end of this week, I get to leave the country and go to Canada to hang out with almost 200 incredible women at the High Vibe Women event. So it is Women's Month, if you did not know. And so I had to bring in one of my favorite women in business to talk about growth through community. If you know me at all, you know I am such a connector. I am such a collaborator. I love to cultivate a sense of belonging. And so I wanted to start out this month by having this conversation. Now, it is a new month, so we have some new opportunities for you to learn with Bootstrap Biz Advice. So I'm going to go through a few short announcements, and then we will hop into the interview. So our workshop for this month for the Bootstrap Star students will be all about what to do after a launch. My friends, most of you burn yourself out and do not have a system for what happens after you launch an event or a product or a service. So I am bringing in Letitia Lynch to have this conversation. I'm so excited to talk about how to recover, regroup, and rebook without starting from scratch. So that will be our Star Student Workshop. After that, we are going to hop into a 3-part series all about rebuilding your email list. My friends, I don't do anything halfway, and your girl broke her email list. When I tell you, it's shocking how bad I broke this. I will tell you, I had a 44% open rate. And then I made some mistakes because there were a lot of changes with deliverability and with Google. And so I went down to less than 1%. So I have been spending the past 2 months learning all about deliverability, learning all about what these providers want us to be doing. And I want to share that with you because there is so much power in a healthy list. So our live streams for the rest of the month will be dedicated to the series, Rebuilding Your List. Finally, for the Bootstrap creators, this is the YouTube quarter. We started out in January with a YouTube live boot camp. In February, we had some YouTube growth challenge tips. And so in March, we're going to focus specifically on leveraging YouTube Shorts to grow your channel. Many of you talked about the fact that you want to actually play around with short form on YouTube because of your capacity, and I want to equip you to do well with that. So if you are at all interested in any of these member events and you are watching on YouTube, you can just tap on the join button. If you are watching on LinkedIn, you can go to LaShondaBrown.com/become a member. And of course, we will be doing our work with me sessions. And so those will be an opportunity for you to virtually co-work with the community, get a feel for what it looks like being a member. And this will be a great opportunity for you to apply some of the things that I'll be teaching you as part of the YouTube Shorts Challenge. Now, if you notice in the top right-hand corner, I have the Bootstrap Club logo, which is the name of my email list. So you can scan the QR code, or you can go to LaShondaBrown.com/join the club to join my email list. It is fresh now, guys. It is being rebuilt. And so I would encourage you to get on there because I talk about mindful marketing and tech tips. So since I am sponsoring my own live stream, I'm going to play a very quick ad about the Bootstrap Club and then bring up my dear friend, Kristina. This live stream is brought to you by the Bootstrap Club. Some things never make it to Instagram, and for that level of small biz realness, join the club. When you join the Bootstrap Club for free, you'll start getting access to my behind the scenes emails about my pivot from being a burnout service provider to a mindful full-time content creator. I share my ups and downs in this private format because I think it's important to be transparent if I'm going to be the mentor that I always wanted. Thousands of people from all around the world have joined the club to receive my strategy emails, and I would love for you to join us. To sign up, go to LaShondaBrown.com, click on Join the Bootstrap Club, drop your name and email address, and I will add you to the list. I hope you have a blessed Monday, and I look forward to chatting with you soon. All right, my friend, welcome to my channel. How are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm so honored to be here. This is so fun and no better way to start a Monday.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I told Kristina before, I was like, girl, you are a podcaster, you are a speaker. I am not even stressed about this conversation. And I think that so many people are going to benefit from learning specifically about community from you because you really are obsessed with it. So I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and tell people who you are.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me, LaShonda. You were one of my faves, so I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, so I'm Kristina, and I am the co-founder of The Social Snippet and High Vibe Women. The Social Snippet is a social media and podcasting agency. I've been growing that with my amazing business partner over the last 5 years. And we really love helping people grow their communities online, which is how we got started in all this. I'm also the host of a podcast called Community, where I teach people how to build community online, in person, grow their business. That's how we scaled our business to 7 figures. And it has been such an amazing journey, and really community's been the core of it. So I share tips over there. I had an amazing episode with LaShonda a little while ago. I'm going to have her back. And then also I am the co-founder of High Vibe Women, which is an entrepreneurial community. We have an online community that's bumping, but we also do big in-person events twice a year. LaShonda's our keynote this Saturday, which I'm so excited about. But yeah, we are really just passionate about helping entrepreneurs build their communities in order to grow their business, grow their network, and ultimately grow their impact. I know a lot of your viewers and listeners are people who are very impact driven like you are. And that's what it's all about for us too. And I know that community is kind of the core for that. So yeah, that's kind of me in a full nutshell.
I love that. And I absolutely love the fact that you are so engaged with your local community. So that's actually what I want to start with. How important do you think it is for online businesses to have a local presence?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because I think people, especially like for me, even I like really started my business in 2020, right? So I didn't have the need for an in-person community at the time, and there wasn't a lot, going on in person at that time. And so I would say I didn't really focus on that initially, but as soon as we kind of were a little freer to do so, I started to see how much in-person interactions informed our community, right? Like we would go to networking events, even little coffee meetups, like little even things where you never know who you're going to meet, who you're going to sit beside, what's going to be possible for them. And they might have a connection that totally changes your business, or you might hire them for something, or they may hire you for something. And so I actually think like even you have a localized business, if business or an online business, if business is something that you see yourself doing long term, then focusing local is also so important, because that is actually your community. Those are the people around you. And I actually think that there's just so much power in that, we've really glorified the online space. And I think there's lots of good, LaShonda, that's how we met, lots of really good things that really happen online. But I think the in-person stuff has a lot of magic. And I think we really undervalue it. I've seen people, in running High Vibe Women, we run two 200-person events. We have a 100-person online community, and then we run pop-ups all throughout the year. And we'll see people who are online coaches, people who do not have really, there's no reason for them to be in person. But they come and they experience the magic of the room. They build relationships. They come up with a great power partner. They find local people that they love working with. Like there is just so much magic in that. And I honestly think you can't beat the in-person vibe. And so I would say if you have an online business, like finding those local communities, if you don't see it, maybe you're meant to be the one to create it, which is what felt like it was the case for us. But yeah, I would say it's definitely an important part of growing a business.
Well, I saw recently one of my members who's also a community facilitator. She actually treats her online membership almost like a hybrid experience. So, a lot of the local people in the Jacksonville, Florida area actually decide to join her online community because of connecting with her in person.
Yep.
And so, as you start to see the announcements about who the members are, they're actually located in her backyard. So there are some people, yeah, from all over the world who have joined her community. But I actually think it's a growth hack. It's so much easier for you to overcome objections when you're face to face with someone versus, having to be a part of all the noise online. So I
Yeah.
thought that was a really sweet strategy. And do you see that you have a lot of Canadian members in your online community?
Definitely. Mostly, I would say, because they do convert from our events, right? And so that was kind of the heart behind High Vibe Women initially was, right now I'm in New York City. Like, I was going to the States all the time to grow our agency. And because you folks have so many events here in the States, which is awesome. And so I would go to the US all the time, and it was really great. And then all of a sudden I kind of was like, oh, like I'm coming home and I can't find what I'm looking for here. And then I started to kind of really lean into, we would host these dinners and stuff like that. And it like kind of grew from that. And we realized there was just such a heart for it. But one of the things I was going to say, LaShonda, is that, like, I think people really discredit the communities that are in their like in their midst, like in their reach, right? So even I'm thinking about businesses, like for myself online, there's a lot of focus around like hitting seven figures, right? Like I don't know, Lashana, if you feel that as well, but this comes up all the time for me with my clients in my agency, or even with us, right? There was like, oh, we need to make $1 million like a year. That was the goal. That was the goal. And then you reach it and nothing really changes. But I just want to tell anybody who's looking towards that. But what was cool about it is that what I really realized was how many seven-figure entrepreneurs were just in my backyard. And I was searching for mentorship like everywhere, right? Like I was like, oh, I'm going to join this community. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And while that was great, and I grew so fast, loved the communities. There's a clinic across the street from my house that I know for sure does seven figures and is female owned, right? Like there's so many different people. And so I think we can't discredit the local business owners who are around us, who are also growing their businesses, growing their communities, and have a lot to offer us, whether you're in the online space or the in-person space. So yeah, I would say definitely, like, I see a lot of conversion. And even for us, like we do like podcast management, right? And in the online space, everyone has a podcast, in my experience. Like, yeah, most people have a podcast, I would say. Maybe not everybody, but in the in-person space, I'm like, oh, how many like localized podcasts are there? I have many local clients that do podcasts now, like tons, because I meet them at events. Podcasting's on their heart. We have a little conversation. I don't even pitch in the conversation. I just tell them that's what I do. I'm top of mind when it's time. And so, yeah, I really think I've gotten clients at the dentist. Like, you cannot really like even be able to quantify where everybody comes from.
Well, and I think the thing that people don't consider as well is I think having a foothold where you live also helps with like your mental health. Because I think if your entire reality is based on your Instagram feed and your LinkedIn feed, I feel like you lose sight of like the forest from the trees. Like, I love the fact that I can go to the farmer's market and the vendors know who I am and could care less about my YouTube channel. They have no idea like what stages I've been on. They know me as LaShonda, who loves to support local farmers. And I think having that place to kind of retreat to say, oh, I get to just be me over here. I don't have to worry about how I'm going to optimize or manipulate the situation. Like, I can just exist and my neighbors know who I am. I do think that truly does help me to stay grounded, because like they will humble you real quick. Okay. Yeah. Like they don't care how much money you make if, when they need help, you're not there to help them. And so I think that it's so good to like, yes, kill it online. Sometimes you can have that overlap, but also like have a life outside of your online profile. It will benefit you so much in the long run.
I totally agree. And I don't know if you find this too, LaShonda, but being like an online service provider as well, like something I'm always reminded of, and it's such a joy, is when I go into local businesses, I work with local people and they don't know anything about my craft.
Yes.
I actually am so like, I actually am really like overjoyed by it. Not because I want to talk about it, but because it's like so interesting that like online you're like, you are your Instagram profile, it feels like, right? Like, oh, people know you for this, people know you for that. But when you're sitting down, you're getting your haircut, and this is an experience I actually had where they didn't really know much about social. And I was like, everybody knows this about social. Like, everybody knows this about podcasting. I'm like so in it, right? Like, I'm working day in and day out on this stuff. But I remember that there's actually a full world of people who are doing their own thing. And actually they can lean on me in some ways, in the same way I'm getting my haircut, right? And so I think it's just really important to remember like the online space isn't everything. And that's where the magic of in-person comes. And of course, there's great stuff that comes from being online, like tons of great stuff. But I do think having a localized base, even a localized business bestie, or even really just like looking and supporting local businesses in your area can make such a big difference.
So speaking of local, I am so curious what you have to say about this. What do you think about online business owners joining associations like a chamber of commerce?
Yeah, I think like anything, you want to kind of suss out, and I'm actually curious your perspective on this too, LaShonda. You really want to suss out what's for you and what's not for you, right? Like, so I will say I'm a member of our Chamber of Commerce locally. I love them. They do great work. I do feel a bit of a disconnect sometimes from what they work on versus like who I serve, right? Like where are my ideal clients there? Like, yes, probably, but like maybe not to the full extent. It depends on where you live. I think it's just like figuring out if it's a good situation for you. So even like I was recently I think I can say this is fine, but like, recently I went to like a BNI meeting for the first time. That really wasn't for me. And so knowing that, I'm probably not going to invest my time there. I don't have like infinite amounts of time. So I think if you want to build local community, I think a Chamber of Commerce is a great way to do so. And I think especially like in my experience, like it's a great way for you to be able to serve, but also maybe change the landscape of what your local area looks like. Like if you don't see what you're looking for, volunteer for a committee, get involved in something, run a lunch meetup, like do something to really start to build that community so you can see more of what you're looking for. I know for myself, like there's in my area, there's not a ton of young business owners, right? Like most of the people I would say who are in business, who I'm seeing, who I was experiencing were, 50 plus, like I'm in my early 30s. So I was looking for something a little different when I was getting started. And now I'm actually finding so many women in my area because of High Vibe Women's been like a little bit of a magnet of women my age doing business or men my age doing business. And that's exactly what I was looking for. And it doesn't need to be age, but it's like really think about like what is it for you? What do you want out of it? Are you looking for friends? Are you looking for clients? Are you looking for community? Are you looking for like whatever it is? And then the other piece is like, does the way that person, organization, whatever it is, build community work for you, right? Like, so for example, for myself, and this is shocking to people find this so interesting about me, I like literally cannot network if I'm by myself. Like I am so anxious. So I go places and I'm like, and so I'm like the person who loves an assigned seat. I'm like, you put me down. I like, thank you so much for not making me try to figure out where I'm going to sit. Or I bring a buddy with me places. And once I like am a little warmed up, I'm fine, but I need a little moment. So a lot of times at a lot of my chamber events, like they're pretty fast paced. I might not know somebody. That's not super enticing for me to go to every week, So, but I actually used to do this group with the chamber where we would meet bi-weekly and we would have lunch, and I built a lot of really deep relationships there. That's more my jam. So I had to figure out where I wanted to invest my time. But I think if you're an earlier stage entrepreneur where you definitely have more time than you do money, sometimes something like that's a really affordable option, and you can work something like that and really, really like serve it, and it can serve you back.
Yeah, I love what you said about being an early stage entrepreneur, because I think it actually is so much easier for someone starting out to grow face to face and locally than it is online. Like, can you imagine like starting an Instagram account? You got no followers, don't nobody know who you are, and then you're like, okay, buy my 4-figure product.
Yeah.
Versus when you're in person, you have that opportunity to really explain the heart behind what you do, the why, who you've helped, all of that. And so I think for me, what I noticed early on in entrepreneurship is I found a lot of leadership training opportunities in person. I became a better thought leader because of chambers, because of networking groups, because of Rotary International. And so I think that there was a time and place, because I started my entrepreneurship journey when I was 22, my senior year of college. I was barely a grown up. And then I quit my job. My husband and I start this business. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what an LLC is. I don't know how to conduct a meeting or what tools to be using. And so over time, I now feel like I've stepped into more of that mentor phase where I want to be the mentor I always wanted. But there were certainly people, year 0 to 5, who really were kind enough to point me in the right direction, to introduce me to a CPA, to say, hey, maybe you should set up a table at this expo and what have you. And so I don't think I would have had that type of undergirding and support if I had looked to the internet for that. I think local people were way more apt to actually guide me along the way, and to be gracious while I was brand new. And so I do think there is a time and place, but I'll be honest with you. I think unless there is more of a reform
Mm.
for chambers of commerce universally, you will outgrow them. I think
Yeah.
as you grow as a person, as your business grows, I think there is kind of a time frame where it's like, this no longer serves me simply because it's better suited for corporations or for new entrepreneurs. And so once you hit that midway point, I don't know if it's necessary anymore.
Yeah, and honestly, I do think I completely agree with what you're saying, especially when we're talking about this like uh, aspect of people being very gracious early on, right? Like it is so much easier for you to join a chamber and take members out for a half an hour coffee than it is for you to try to grow like a massive network online, right? Like I'm really lucky. The way that we grew our business was really through masterminds. Like I wasn't like, oh, I'm making a ton of content and like people are like finding me through this content. It was like I would join masterminds or communities. I go in, I serve, and then I kind of just grow my network. And we were just kind of talking about this too, about like how do you get more speaking opportunities? You just speak, and it was kind of like that. Like how do you like grow your network? You just build great connections, and then more connections come from that. And so I love our chamber, and it was actually interesting in the sense because I used to be like more involved with it when we were earlier stage, and then as our business kind of grew, it didn't really make I wasn't like not to speak ill of it, it just like I wasn't getting huge ROI and like I could spend 3 hours at an event here in New York City and do something and I would typically get a client or like a really great connection, but I like that I would meet people at the chamber, but maybe the follow-up wasn't there or whatever that looked like for me. And so what was really like interesting about it is I met this amazing woman through the chamber, and she does like a ton of swag for us. Like that's like her business. She's awesome. And I was like, oh, like I like haven't been to a chamber thing. And she's like, oh yes, like this is like you've passed the chamber time. And I was like, oh, I don't know that you ever passed a chamber time, but I think it's really just about like season of business, right? And you can also outgrow communities. I think that's another thing too, is like allowing yourself to be like, okay, I've gotten what I needed from this and I feel super complete and I still refer tons of people to things, but that might not be a community for me right now. And so the online world and the in-person world are very different in terms of how trust is built and how people build community and long-term what that looks like. And so yeah, I think just also like I just want to give people permission if you're listening to this that like if you're in a community and mastermind and relationships that you're kind of like, okay, I think I've gotten like what I needed from it and I'm on to my next thing. There's actually no shame in that. And that's very normal.
Well, I think you bring up a good point that when you don't see what you currently need, you might be the one that needs to create it. And so, what advice would you have for someone who's interested in launching their own networking event or community? Like, what is that thing they should be looking out for to know that it's really a good time to transition into being a host versus just an attendee?
Yeah, I would say firstly, it's like you see the gap. That's the big thing. So for us, it was like we were going to the US all the time. We were doing the thing. And I was just like, okay, there's no, like, I can't find these communities. If I went to them, they didn't feel like home for me. And I was going to amazing events and it still wasn't kind of right. And so we started that. And what I would say is you see the gap. That's the first thing. But the second piece is really just knowing your audience and starting small. So it doesn't need to be, hey, I'm going to like, host this huge online community. Now I'm going to launch a 200-person event because one person told me that they want an event for this kind of niche or location. We started very small. So we would run 15-person, 20-person dinners like bi-monthly. And then they grew a little bit more and then a little bit more. And then we're like, well, what if we put 100 people in a room together? What would happen? And then now, we've run these events, these big ones 5 times now. And like, they go up in number every single time, but it's like we've done the reps. We didn't start with a 200-person event. So even though we probably had an audience like for like something, I didn't think we had an audience for that at the time. And so I think just knowing like if you're like feeling it, like what testers can you put out to see how people respond to it? And I would say as well, it's like who can you partner with on it? Like it doesn't have to be like a business partnership or anything like that, but who can you partner with to have it come to life? So it's kind of low risk, low barrier to entry. Could you host a lunch with somebody? I've seen people do this where it's like, if say LaShonda, you and I were wanting to do this, we'd each bring 10 of our own friends and put them together. And then that's like either start up a little like dinner club or if you have a niche, like talking to people, asking them what they would like. Cause even, I don't know, and you know this from your own sales, LaShonda, but like sometimes people tell you they want things and they don't want them the way they're saying, right? Like I've experienced that we see this with High Vibe Women sometimes, where everybody wants weekday things. And we're like, great weekday things. And then we offer a weekday thing and they're like, ooh, busy weekday. And I'm like, you said weekday, So it's like really always us trying to figure out like what works for our audience. But I think like if I was in a season where I wanted to build some community and I was seeing there was a gap, I would truly just start having conversations with people and see what is a low risk way that I could bring something to life.
So something I've seen people implementing lately, and I'm like, because you mentioned the dinner thing, and I'm like, that is really catching on.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing, and there's a new app that I need to like get in the depths and get a free trial to before I, announce it. But people are combining attending a conference with dinner meetups with their community.
Yeah.
So they're already saying like, hey, you already have the hotel room. You've already gone to Austin. You've already gone to LA. While we're here, I'm going to sponsor this dinner. While we're here, let's have a meetup. And so I think for someone who has more of an online presence, that could be a really good way for you to engage your community, is to say, well, I'm already out of town attending this event. So instead of you having to come to me, because maybe where you live is super rural, like where I'm at, I'm already in a big city, hit me up for dinner. And in some cases, like people will get sponsors, so it literally doesn't cost you anything. But I do think something important to note is that most people, when they think about hosting an event, they don't realize how much time it takes and how much capital it takes. Mm-hmm. So do you think it's like a realistic expectation to actually make money with an event, or is it more of what you get after the event that is the return for you, the return on your investment of time and effort?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would say at the beginning, I always tell people, I'm like, don't run events if that's your lunch money. Like if you are in a situation where like you need that money, like don't do it, because they can get very costly unexpectedly. Like, you end up having to buy a swag item, or like last week I ended up getting a bill for like an extra AV thing we weren't expecting. Like that kind of stuff just happened. So at the beginning, I would say it was definitely a community play, like 100%. And it really what it was is we wanted more network. And so that was a piece of it. There is something to hosting. And two, we just really saw it as advertising for our marketing agency. Like we didn't lose money doing it, but we would, get together and we'd never pitch, but we'd say, hey, part of the High Vibe Women are like smaller dinners, pieces every single person introduces themselves and what they do. Right. So I think many of those women, if they were to launch a podcast, would think of us, or if they needed social media management, they would think of us. And that I was happy in that regard. So that was just kind of enough ROI for me, and I would see the results of it. But now it is its own business. So now we actually like work on sponsorship and like really try to make it profitable. I would say smaller ones are easier to make profitable. People really do not know how much big events cost. Like it's truly like, it's funny. Somebody said to me recently, they're like, oh my gosh, must be so nice. You make 6 figures on each event. I'm like, yeah, I spend 6 figures on each event. Like, they're expensive. And so, we could do it differently, I'm sure, but we don't. And so I would say it's definitely a community play. And I love what you were sharing about these dinners. A friend of mine actually is doing a bunch of these at South by Southwest, where like she's bringing together kind of like a bunch of influential women. And it's a great way for her brand to get in front of them. And like she gets to sponsor that experience. And so I think there's lots of ways that you can do it, but just I think really at the start it has to be about community for you. I think you can make money. There's lots of great like huge revenue opportunities with events, like you think about sponsorship, ticket sales, like that kind of thing. But the costs are there as well.
So I do want to remind people that although Kristina and I are fantastic speakers, this is actually live. So you do have the opportunity to ask questions and put things in the comments. I personally am actively producing this in real time, so I get real distracted looking at the comments while we're yapping. But when I'm done with my questions, I will address yours. So as you are listening to us, if things come up, please do drop them in the comments so that we have them there to archive, and I will pop them up on screen at the end. So we do want to address any specific questions you have about growing through community. So it's not all my questions. We're going to co-create this experience, but your girl can get easily distracted. So we're not going to do that right now. Okay. Speaking of my questions, another one I want to ask you is, are you seeing other colleagues have success with combining like a live event with online community? So in your case, you have the High Vibe Women, full day event, but there's also a High Vibe Women membership. So is that
Yeah.
strategy really popular on your side of the internet?
Definitely. Yeah. I think, both I think take different types of cultivating. So you have to be open to being able to you have to be a strong community facilitator in both ways. They just require different things. So really like our online membership, we just kind of brought that to life this year, like in this year, I guess it was like November. Because we run these two big events and then these small pop-ups that sell out. And so these women wanted to connect in between. And then they would always ask Maria and I about coaching. And Maria and I are like, I don't take one-on-one clients on because I care too much about people's results and they don't do what I tell them and then I get upset. So I don't one-on-one coach. But what we do is we coach in there. We offer networking calls, like all of that. And really like it's not about us. There's a circle community and people can get feedback on everything. And we use our like marketing brains and all of that. But it's really just about them. We're getting them to connect with each other. They're hiring each other, they're doing business in there. And then the in-person events are a great way to kind of recalibrate that. I do see people who do a great job with this. I can think of a few communities I'm in that they have in-person meetups. And they really do a great job of amplifying their online members and making it like very well known, creating that FOMO of like, hey, you kind of want to be like part of the whole thing. But yeah, I would definitely say it's super popular and it's a great way. Like I would say there's a lot of communities out there, guys, like tons, as you probably all know. And I think it's really important for you to find communities that really fit for you, whether that be online or in person. And so when you're finding those online or in-person communities, it's like going to in-person events is a great way for you to see if those people are a fit for you. So even for example, I'm in a community for 7-figure founders. It's called Maison. That's why I'm here in New York right now. And I went to one of their events in Miami to kind of suss them out and was like, okay, what kind of women are here? Like, what do they care about? What do they talk about? And it was really helpful for me. And I've also been to events where I've left and I'm like, okay, that's actually not my room. And that's also okay. And like, I'm being able to figure that out. So yeah, I think there's a strong correlation right now between trying to convert the online to in-person. And I'm even seeing it with coaches. Like coaches are bringing together their students, like course creators are bringing together their students to be able to get them to see the magic of the in-person stuff.
Well, and I think what's interesting about combining an online community with an in-person event, I just saw this happen recently with New Media Summit, and I liked how Matt did it. And so he actually did a pop-up community. And the pop-up community was hosted in Circle, and it gave people attending New Media Summit an opportunity to not just network with each other, but to organize unofficial meetups amongst themselves. There were 500 plus people at this event. And so instead of him putting the pressure on himself to, create all these opportunities outside of the event, he's like, look, y'all are adults. You can do this. I will create a consolidated list of all the unofficial meetups. But if you want to meet up around running or around knitting or whatever, you can initiate. And so I thought that really helped cultivate a really good energy and good vibes before we were in the room.
Yeah.
And then during, we were sharing information in the community. And even after, then people were said, hey, if you want to book a call with me or if you want to stay connected. And so I'm not sure how long that pop-up community will be up. But I did like that because he didn't offer us like ongoing support or anything like that. He just simply made it easy for us to ahead of time figure out who would be a good person to have coffee with, who would be a good person to maybe sit down with over lunch and go deeper versus having to wait until you're in a room with 500 people and then trying to figure that out. It's just so overwhelming. So I thought that was really clever.
Yeah, I was going to say, LaShonda, Podfest did the same thing. I spoke at Podfest this year. It was really good. I think there were 1,400 people there, and they gave the opportunity for people to do their own meetups. And like, again, like 1,400 person event is not my jam. So if I was speaking, I probably wouldn't attend because as an attendee, that wouldn't be good ROI for me. I learned a ton from people, but I would be just like so awkward the whole time, like for sure, 100%. So I spoke, I had an amazing experience. I knew one other girl there, but a few of my favorite brands actually ran meetups, like Buzzsprout ran a meetup, Riverside ran a meetup, like all of these people who I'm like kind of familiar with on the podcasting side. And then the other way, then also people would be like, hey, people would reach out on LinkedIn because we got the attendee list in advance. And they'd say, hey, I'm hosting a women's entrepreneur meetup for 40 women. Like, will you be there? And I'd be like, okay. And then I would go, and it was a great way to make some great connections. Or there was a LinkedIn meetup, like that was about like people who were growing their podcasts using LinkedIn. So it was really, really helpful, like for me to be able to capture some of those relationships that didn't happen on the main stage, right? Like these were really people that I got to build stronger relationships with. So you guys can even do that unofficially. I went to an event in Ottawa last week, and we tacked a high vibe women brunch onto the next day because we knew a bunch of people would be in town. Easy, right? So I have a friend who does that with Powerhouse Women every year, the event in Arizona. So it's like, yeah, you can get creative with hosting your own community.
Well, and I saw this happen in New York after Affiliate Summit. PartnerStack literally had a one-day conference on the tail end of Affiliate Summit because they're like, oh, people might just book another day at their hotel and stay in New York. And so they use that as an opportunity for them to meet some of their customers and have their customers meet each other. And so I think these strategies that we're seeing implemented on a large scale can actually be scaled down for small business owners.
Totally.
Like you see South by Southwest doing this every year. It's like, yes, you have the formal stuff, but there are people who never even buy a ticket to South by, and they just kind of linger and figure out all the unofficial stuff because there's so much going on.
I literally last year I was too pregnant, so I like gave up on it. Like I was gonna linger, and I did that this year at Art Basel. Like we went, and I went for one event, and then I was like, okay, and then I'm open to whatever else happens, right? And then lots of people do activation, so it's the same thing with South. Like it's like you see so many, like Flowdesk will do something, Candle will do something, these people will do something. I'm not going this year because it's too close to have a woman, but like just so many opportunities and great connections. So yeah, if there's somewhere you want to be, see if you can even gather 5 people for lunch. Like that's building community. Like it doesn't need to be like you're all of a sudden like creating something massive. It can be something meaningful and small.
And I think another thing that is often overlooked with these in-person events is you can also build community with the vendors in the hallway.
Yeah,
they love when you talk to them. They love it. And
yeah.
I've either gotten sponsorships, brand partnerships from that, or I've re-engaged past brand partners because I spent time with them at their table. So this happened at New Media as well. Uscreen was there. Uscreen is one of my partners. They built my app. And so I was able to meet the CEO of Uscreen. I was able to be interviewed for content on their platforms. I re-engaged with High Level there. I scheduled a meeting with a couple other brands. And so the reality is, yes, the speakers are cool. And I love it when people rush the stage after someone speaks and they want to build community with that person. But there are so many different circles when you go to an in-person event, whether it is the vendors in the hallway, the other attendees, the organizers, the speakers. There's so many things that you can do to further your community. You don't even have to know in that moment how that relationship may be valuable later on down the line. You can just focus on being a good human, being kind, being memorable, and then people can get creative. People can put 2 and 2 together on their own. So I would encourage you, don't just focus on who's occupying the stage, and certainly don't size people up based on their social following, because you have no idea. Some of the most successful people in the room have the smallest Instagram account. So just don't be fooled by that either.
I can't speak to what you just said enough, LaShonda, have this idea of like, you literally never know when a relationship's going to come in handy or like what's going to come to fruition. You know what I mean? Like even, yes, I was at this dinner yesterday. One of the girls there, her and I have connected a few different times. And she was like, oh, I'm looking for this thing and I can't find anyone who does this. And I was like, oh, I know who does that. I know who does it really well. And I was able to make a great referral, but like she wouldn't have known to text me because we just don't have that kind of relationship. And so you just never know. And I actually have friends who, sponsorships like really like close for them in terms of revenue, and that's really important for them. So they go to the events primarily to meet sponsors and primarily to like hang out in the vendor spot. So yeah, they do love when you talk to them, and I think it's a great way to connect with brands and find win-win solutions for them, right? Like as part of our events and my sponsors for my podcast, like a big piece of it is like I'm always asking like, what's a win-win for you? And I'm about relationships. So I'm not like, hi, I'm about to ask you for a ton of money. I'm like, hey, like what is an absolute win for you? What's working for you right now that you're excited about? What do you need? And that's actually how I approach building community and relationships as well. Like if I sit next to someone at a dinner, I'm like, what's working for you right now in your business and what's not? And people will say, hey, I'm like struggling with this, or I need that. I'm looking for support with this. And I'm like, send me a message on LinkedIn. I'll connect you. Or here's my email. Quickly just email me and I'll shoot you an email with someone else. I'm always happy to do that kind of stuff.
So we do have a really good opportunity to build community around Women's History Month. And so what is the number one thing that you think women should be doing to build community like this month specifically?
It's a great question. I think firstly, this is a great month where you're going to find a ton of events, right? So there's lots of stuff going on probably in your local Chamber of Commerce. Their National Women's Day is on the 8th, like lots of great places. You can go, panels, different things like that. But what I would say is if you were in a season where you were building new community, is I would focus on relationship, and I would focus on really just, can you get coffee with new people? Like, ask someone who you admire and you love and is in your network, hey, do you know 3 people I should know? And, get in on the phone with them, get into a Zoom, and best if you can get with them in person, build some rapport, build some relationships, and end it with like, what do you need right now in your business? And see if you can be a super connector for that person. See if there's something you can do to help move the needle for them. Don't focus on, hi, how am I going to get ROI from this? Hey, is that person going to give me money? But more like, how can you really serve that person? I think that'll serve you a long way.
Well, and I think there also is so much power in collaborations, especially when it's easy and very little friction. So, say for instance, I knew that I was going to be going to High Vibe this weekend. And so I just reached out Kristina. I was like, hey, would you be willing to come on my YouTube channel and just to have a conversation about community? Now, we had an opportunity to both expose our audiences to each other. And I've already had a couple women DM me and said, oh, Kristina shared this in her stories, hadn't heard of you before. And now I'm so engaged with your brand. And so I think collaborations, whether it's an interview style or you do a panel, the past couple years, I've done a Women in Tech roundtable for International Women's Day. And so things like that, people are primed and ready to collaborate right now, especially women. People want to platform women. Women want to be seen and collaborate. And so I think this month specifically, really be intentional about how can you amplify the women in your life, or how can you provide a platform to amplify other women? Because I think even if you don't have a formal podcast, like I don't, but I do interviews on my YouTube channel when I really want to share really impactful people in my life with my audience. So you don't have to worry about creating a whole sub brand to kind of house this content. If you have an Instagram, if you have a LinkedIn, if you have a YouTube channel, you can do something special this month that doesn't have to be repeated in April, May, June, what have you. Yeah. You can say specifically right now, there are women in my community, there are past clients, there are people who I've networked with, people in my backyard who I want to introduce my audience to. Now's the time, because everyone's kind of primed and ready to do that. Yeah. So I really want to make sure that you have an opportunity to talk about High Vibe, because I love what you're doing. It's so funny. I was listening to your podcast episode about what to expect. And then I was like, oh yeah, I can just talk to her. I'm going to see her in like 10 minutes. So I would love to kind of talk through your intentionality around the schedule. And then I'll also share the wait list, because y'all, it's too late for y'all to get tickets to this. But I do want to talk about what you have planned.
Yes. Yeah, it is going to be absolutely amazing. And you should listen to it, because you get a really nice shout out in that podcast episode if you haven't gotten there yet. But yes, we love High Vibe Women, is like so close to our heart. We gather twice a year, almost 200 women to grow their communities. And so we have like really tons of cool stuff going on, but our heart for it is really helping women grow their businesses. So we have everything from, LaShonda coming to speak about working less and living more, and like that importance of that balance, because it's not all like hustle, hustle, hustle. It's not who we are. So you'll see things like breath work. We have an amazing movement break. Like we do a lot of stuff that also like fills the cup and fills the soul. We have a chill space at it every year, which is like a really amazing space where people go and they can like relax and connect. And so it's beautiful. And then we also have a few other amazing things, whether that be we do a half an hour networking activity, very facilitated for nervous Nellies like me. we have a really amazing panel that is all about how to scale your business with ease. We have a mutual friend of ours, Drea Jones, on it, who, you know, scaled an agency down, right? Like, we really talk about like, how do you grow, but then also how do you sustain? We have someone talking about using a book to build your revenue. And then we have amazing Anna, who is going to be talking about, you know, the frequency of money, right? Like, how do we spend? How do we make more money? But really, again, a huge piece of it is those connections. And we have breakout rooms, so people have their own workshops. So we have one on sales, and then we have another one on profit, and a third one on AI, and then live podcasts where 3 podcast hosts do a live interview. It's something I've never seen at an event before. So people come and they do a live interview, and people get to watch it kind of in real time, these amazing conversations. So it's going to be absolutely incredible. And then our next event is coming up in October 21st, 22nd, in just outside of Toronto again. And this, we're doing it on a weekday. The people have asked and we have listened. But the next one will be in October, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. We have tons of people come from all around the world. We had someone come from Australia last year to come experience it. So it's going to be amazing.
So I did put the link to the wait list in the chat. So if you are on YouTube, you can click directly from there. But I did make a redirect. LaShondaBrown.com/Kristina will take you to the wait list so that you can get on there for that. So friends, if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I see some comments from my community, so I want to make sure I acknowledge them. Oh my goodness, so many people I recognize, and some folks on LinkedIn as well. So I see Charmaine, Darlene, Lori, Camille, Dr. Lolita, Sunithia. So many folks that I recognize. So thank you guys so much for your support and hopping on live. We say this a lot on the channel, but help the replay reach more people by giving it a like. So at any point during this conversation, if you were given value, this truly does help the algorithm. Believe it or not, the channel started at 40K on New Year's Day, and we just hit 89,000. So this is the year of me doubling down, growing the channel, getting that freaking play button, and then showing people I know what I'm talking about. So help a girl out. Like this live stream. Yes, Kristina, I will teach you my ways. But yeah, it's been wild. It's been wild. So I just saw that when I logged in, and I'm like, oh, that's nice. So you guys are truly helping to grow this channel, and I'm so grateful for all of your engagement. So definitely keep it coming. But I did see a couple questions here. One was Lolita said, I live in a rural area and I'm one of a few providers in my town. How do I build community here or expand to possible providers 30 minutes away? Yeah. So I'll take it and then I'll pop it over to you, Kristina. So I would just say, it's funny. The founder, one of the co-founders of the Groove app, moved to Virginia from Jerusalem, and he ended up living an hour from me. And so as soon as I found out that he was living in Virginia, I was like, oh, you're my neighbor. He's like, girl, I live an hour away. But in Virginia, an hour is my neighbor. So I'm gonna come up the mountain and come see you. And so I think in the beginning, you may have to be the one to initiate and to compress that space for people. Be willing to get in the car and go to them and choose spaces that are nearby where your ideal person is located. It's a much harder ask to get them to drive the 30 minutes and come to you. You can also look for intentional events that would benefit both of you and say, hey, you know, I'm going to High Vibe Women. Yeah. If you happen to be going, I would love to take you out to coffee. I would love to meet you in person. So you could suggest events that might be an event that both of you guys like. But I have been known to literally, I wanted to meet people. So I got in the car and I drove. And I think at the end of the day, especially when you are in the growth stage of your business, when you're ready to scale, you can kind of throw money at the problem. But yeah. I'm a believer that when you're in the growth stage, you got to throw time at the problem. And so it's like, okay, well, I have to be generous with my time because nobody knows who I am. And eventually I can run an ad and my face is recognizable enough, or have the vanity metrics to prove that I'm competent and capable. And then I can rest on that. But I think if you're in the early stages, you probably just have to give people your time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I love the way you said throwing time at the problem, because I say the same thing. It's like usually you have a little more time than you have money. So leaning into that and going to where people are and making it easy. Like it doesn't need to be complicated. Like I can't say that enough. I know a lot of people right now, they're using Dan Martell's method of like the founder walks, where like they're trying to get entrepreneurs together in an area. They'll just be like, hey, on Friday at 12, every Friday at 12, we walk from this area to this area and we have a coffee or whatever, and it's free, and like that builds like a little bit of community. I do like paid things because there's a little skin in the game for people, but even if you just want to build like a little bit of community, the one thing I will say too is you always want to be building for that next thing as well. It doesn't have to be anything nuts, but even and I'm sure LaShonda will love this, but like you want to be building wait lists for the things that you're doing. It doesn't have to be chaotic, but like if you have a great walk or a lunch or whatever, putting a little, whether that's like a flow desk link or whatever, like we have here, where it's just like, put your emails in here and like next time, so you can be the first to know next time we do something. Like building that FOMO, building that hype is a huge way to keep growing it. And also like even, I think it was Lolita that asked this question, but like Lolita, you going on your Instagram stories or posting on LinkedIn and saying, hey guys, I just want to say, like, I'm super interested in hosting a lunch for other, practitioners of this type. Would love to meet. Put your email here if you're interested. And you can get a sense, because sometimes we want to build a community and people aren't really like 100% bought into the way we want to do it. Or we even found like we keep trying to run this like candle making event because we think people want to make these candles, and no one wants to make these candles with us. And our lunches sell it like this. But then we're like, let's pour a candle, and people are not into it. So it was like noted. And so then we pivot. So I think really just figuring out what people are looking for from you, and always building that list of people who would come to the next thing. That's a great way to do it.
So back in the day, when I was living one of my 9 lives, I had a marketing agency, and I definitely felt that I needed to give back locally. And so it was called About 90 Marketing, because I would create 90-day strategies in 90 minutes, because that's how fast my brain works. And so I would do About 90 meetups. And so I would go to local businesses and say, hey, I'll market the event, I'll get women in your doors, but would you be willing to host? And sometimes they would even provide the food. And so what was really nice about it is I went to a lot of different places in my local community, and I created a tour schedule. And so I had one postcard size document, and I made some that were business card sizes, where once a month I did these pop-up meetups at different area businesses. And that was a great way for people to get out, for them to meet each other. And then the other thing that I wanted to make sure was that every meetup was not just about networking. Networking is fantastic, but I wanted people to learn, because I wanted to position myself as an educator. Yeah. And so I would teach at every single meetup, and I would have a theme. This is what I want to teach you. And so I think that made it super valuable. So even if the same people came again, they still walked away with something valuable because they were able to learn. And so I think that you can also help the local businesses where you live who may be dying for some new foot traffic, and say, hey, I have, a social following. I have connections through different organizations I'm a part of. Yeah. Would you be willing to just open your space? Because a lot of online business owners cannot house a networking event where they're located, because many of us work from home. And so if that's your dynamic, definitely leverage that. But I do want to pull up the wait list just so you guys can see. If you haven't gone to LaShondaBrown.com/Kristina, it literally is this simple. Like, you made this in Flowdesk. Yeah. And how long did it take you, Kristina?
My team did it about 1 minute for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's truly not that deep. And I will tell you, I did tell you guys this at the beginning of the live stream, but I'm going to be talking all about email deliverability and rebuilding your list. And this is something that I am seeing multiple different email marketing strategists talk about. Is gone are the days of sending an email to your full list. Yeah. People want information specifically about what they're interested in. And so even if you have a list, you need to be segmenting your list and developing ways for people to express their interests, whether it's through preferences and Flowdesk or pop-up forums like this. And so even though Kristina has an email list with people from all different walks of life, she needs to know specifically who wants to hear about this. Because what a lot of us do is we launch an offer, we send it to everybody, and 80% of the people don't care. Yeah. And so it tanks your deliverability. it ruins your authority for your email address, and it makes it more difficult later on for you to sell leveraging tech. And so this is just a very practical example of how you can easily leverage tech to work less and live more, because by having this segment, when Kristina is ready to sell for October, she can specifically activate that segment and send them information, and the conversion is going to be so much higher than just a cold audience on her list. And so I want to put that out there to give you guys a practical example. Tech does not have to be super complicated. This was a very simple lift. We made a redirect before we went live, but by having this, she's able to really see, is there even interest?
Yeah.
Sometimes you think people want this, or you think it's a good time, or it's a good format. And by you constantly talking back to your community, you're going to be able to make sure that when it is time to sell, you're selling things that people actually want to receive. So I love that you have this. And I think that it's going to be really impactful, because you'll have people who are going to the event now who will be like, oh yeah, I'm ready. I'm active. Like, what's next?
100%. Yeah, that's been huge for us, especially with our community. It's been like segmentation has been such a big piece of it, because we'll have people, especially because we run events all over Canada, with like a lot of people who don't live close and aren't going to come for lunch in our home city. You know what I mean? But then when we're in Ottawa, they're like, we have a huge little like segment for Ottawa, but then we can target everybody for our big events, because that's what we're traveling for. And so, yeah, I think it's really about just leaning into that in a big way. It works awesome.
So you did mention wanting to popcorn it my way. So we're about to land the plane, but I want to relinquish control. Are there any burning questions that you have for me about community before we head out?
Well, I'm curious for you, because I know you have such a massive online community, like, because you work with so many brands and you have so many partnerships. So I'm curious for you, like, how do you manage all of that with also, like, you have such strong work-life boundaries? So, like, how have relationships, like, how have you been able to manage all those opportunities in those relationships?
Yeah, I think having the perspective that every opportunity needs to serve multiple purposes. It's never about one thing at one time. And I think when you're able to truly wrap your head around the concept of leverage, it's so easy to get so much more done in less time. So like, say for instance, when I went to New Media Summit, I knew that I was not speaking. I intentionally wanted to just learn. I'm like, everything's changing so fast with AI, with all of these things on my marketing space. I just want to sit back. I want to learn from Cody Sanchez. I want to learn from Sam Parr. Like, I just want to be in the chair. But I knew that people who were willing to nerd out about the topics they were speaking on would be good people to have in my network. And so I made sure that I marketed that I was even coming to the summit. And so tons of people wrote in the comments on LinkedIn, like, oh yeah, while we're there, we need to make sure we meet up. And so that really helped soften the blow. I made sure that while I was in the hallway, that I connected with Uscreen, that I connected with High Level, that I hit up the sponsors so that I could leverage that. I took a ton of B-roll content to the point where when Matt said, if you create a video testimonial, you'll get the recordings and the slide decks from all the speakers for free, which he's going to sell for $4.99. I was like, bet I can do that. Then I was able to easily set up in a literal window in the conference space, shoot a 2-minute video, which I posted to my stories, which I sent to him on Senja. And so now I'm going to get those slide decks and those recordings so I can implement later. So I'm looking at this experience going, I need to show people that I'm connected. I need to show people who my sponsors are. I need to create content I can leverage later and all this stuff. And so I looked at this event as an opportunity to get all that in like 2-3 days.
Love that.
You know, and so now I've got content, I've got connections, I've got meetings lined up. And so, yeah, today my schedule is do this live stream, 15-minute meeting with my VA, Angela, hour-long meeting with my SEO person. And then I'm going to the Blue Ridge Parkway and I'm going to walk in the woods and touch some grass. Yeah,
obsessed.
I love it.
What would you say for you, LaShonda, like, you know, because you live in a you don't live in New York City, right? Like, so it's
no.
Yeah. So it's like, it's similarly like, you know, I don't live in New York City. So what would you say to someone who's listening to this and they might not be in like the most like prime area for building community, building relationship, building rapport? Like, what are the things you would do to build out some of that community?
Yeah, so shameless plug for Relay. Absolutely love Relay. They're based in Toronto, and I'm gonna meet up with them for lunch before High Vibe.
Yay!
So organize that. They're gonna find a place near Pearson so we can have lunch. But what I do is I set aside a marketing budget in Relay, and I have a percentage of every dime I make go into my marketing budget, and then from there I can kind of see what can I afford to do. Can I afford to add another day to a conference? Can I afford to sponsor something? And so I think what's really nice is I allow the tech to kind of show me what my capacity and bandwidth are. And then from there, I just get creative. It's like, oh, what do I want to do? Like, I got this budget, I got this time, I've got these resources. And so I just think that I'm in a really sweet season where even within my brand partners, like this happened with Canva. I went to Canva Create in LA. Well, I made sure to introduce Devin, who's biz dev for Flowdesk, to the community manager at Canva. That led to a collaboration 3 months later of us doing a collaborative webinar that I got to teach on. So I'm introducing Canva and Flowdesk. And so right now I'm in this process of I've connected with enough brands that serve the same customer that now I can start introducing my brand partners to each other. And so like when you get to that phase, it is just pure joy. Yeah. Because at that point, it's just like, oh, it's a win-win-win. It's a win for my audience. It's a win for me. It's a win for these brands. And so everything just feels so much lighter. I don't walk into situations throwing business cards at people, thinking to myself, what can I get out of it? It's like, okay, within my marketing budget, can I afford to go to South by? Can I afford? And I'll like when I go to South by Southwest or when I went to New Media, I stayed with a friend.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, my marketing budget did not account for a hotel room right now at the beginning of the year. So let me see if I can sleep on someone's couch. It was a very bougie couch. Yeah. But, it was the guest room. Let's be real. There was a pool. But I'm just saying, sometimes you have to get creative. But I think when you can do that, when you can start thinking about how can I serve others, you're going to be served. Like, you don't have to worry about that. Just go with the mindset of how can I be good to others? It will work out. The desperation, like you can see those people at events, the people who are so desperate to juice this opportunity for everything it's worth, they get nothing out of it.
Yeah.
We see it coming. But the people who lead with generosity, the people who lead with joy, the people who are actively listening and not just plowing through a conversation and sizing people up, those are the people who have exactly what they need when they need it.
Yeah.
And so like that is just the lane you have to walk in. And if you're not there yet, you need to surround yourself with people who have that abundance mindset, because scarcity, it never generates sales. Like it just never does. You think it does? It doesn't. People buy from people who are already slammed with customers.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way. I think you and I have such a good perspective, and it's a similar one about like being cheerful givers, right? Like that it's like, I go to events, I'm kind of like, okay, like what can I give? What can I give? And I know it circles back. Like even yesterday I had dinner with someone who was like, her audience is probably 80 times my audience, like probably. And she had a need. And I was like, let me make you an intro. And then afterwards, she's like, actually, I love coaching people on how to grow their like podcasts, which is somewhere I'm throwing some gas on this year. And she was like, I'd love to give you some feedback. I was like, awesome. Like, so we had like such a good conversation, but I didn't go in being like, wow, like I hope that she gives me something out of it. And so it's amazing that I think you and I have that same perspective on how to grow community. And community is like, I think the biggest hack for business. So it's like whether you have a small audience, big audience, whatever it looks like, you need it. And so it's important.
I couldn't think of a better way to end this conversation. And guys, selfishly, I am loving bringing my friends on for these pointed conversations because it gives us a chance to catch up. But I do think it's so beneficial to you all. So if you did like this, please make sure that you like it. If you happen to be going to High Vibe, please say hello because I would love to see you and take a picture with you. That would be great. But honestly, if nothing else, I will be showing up live throughout the month to really equip you to be great, whether you are looking at life post-launch or trying to rebuild your list. So if you haven't already liked my channel, get me close to the 100K, go ahead and subscribe because it's going to make a huge difference. So As we like to say on the channel to those on LinkedIn and on YouTube, until next time, ta-ta for now.